All right, let's go ahead and tackle this to-do right here, which I had previously. So I said that I was going to teach you in detail what this means. So csrf.disable, but in general, what csrf is. So csrf stands for cross-site request forgery. And forgery means an action of forging a copy or imitation of a document, signature, banknote, or whatever it might be. So in this example right here, we have an attacker, and this attacker wants to forge a request to take money from this user right here. So this logged in user, which is using is internet banking, for example. So the attacker wants to take money from the logged in user into his account. So the way it works is that the attacker forges a request, and inside of that request, it embeds a request into a hyperlink. So this is, for example, a link that if someone clicks on it, it sends money from the logged in user into the attacker. If the attacker manages to send this logged in user into a malicious website, then the logged in user is in real trouble, because when the logged in user clicks on the link embedded by the attacker, then it pretty much just sends the request into the real server that takes money from the logged in user into this attacker's bank account details. So the way that Spring Security protects us from this kind of attack is by enabling cross-site request forgery, which we have disabled right here. So when it's enabled, what happens is this. So the front end, right? So this is the client, right? So the client, so when the client logs in into our server, Spring Security sends a cross-site request forgery token into a cookie. And then the front end uses that token for any form submission. So form submissions usually are post, put, or delete. And then the server validates that token to see whether it matches what the server had sent previously. So when csrf token is enabled, there is no way for this attacker right here to know what was the original token that the server had generated for a particular client. And with this, problem solved. So let me go back to IntelliJ and right here. So let's comment this line out, right? So we're going to enable cross-site request forgery. So if I restart the server, there we go. And if I open a Postman, so right here, so remember before Linda was able to post requests. So if I now try and let's actually first send a get request. So let's send a get request. There we go. So you can see that this works. But now if I go ahead and send a post request and inside of the body, so let me actually grab this student and this will be raw and then JSON right here. So that will be empty. So if I now try and send this payload right here, so I'm going to send this payload, you can see that Linda, she's forbidden from performing this request. So Spring Boot Security is doing its work. So basically, so right here, so the client is logged in with basic auth, then the server sends the actual csrf token, right? So we actually haven't got this part yet, but I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. But now when the front end sends the actual form, i.e. post, put, or delete, this bit kicks in. So the validation kicks in, and because we haven't sent any token, the request is rejected. So if I go back to IntelliJ and let me uncomment this again and restart the server. There we go. Now if I send the request again, you can see that now we get a status code of 200. Now it works. So when should you enable cross-site request forgery? So on the actual official documentation, it says that the recommendation is to use csrf protection for any request that could be processed by a browser by normal users. So if you are only creating a service which is used by non-browser clients, you likely want to disable cross-site request forgery, which is what we have done with this line right here. So in fact, I can uncomment this, or actually remove this to do, because we are learning about this. So next, let's go ahead and learn exactly how to send the actual token. So this token right here. So right here. So when the client logs in, how do we see this token right here so that the client can use it to send it back to our server? All right, let's go ahead and learn how to generate this token to our front end. So what we need to do first is to actually enable cross-site request forgery. So right here, what I want to do for now is simply delete this line. We're going to add it because we need to configure this. But for now, just go ahead and delete that line because I want to show you something first. And also, let's go ahead and delete all of these and matches because we are using annotations, and you can also get the source code from the previous branch. Now, go ahead and restart the server. And go to Postman. And right here, let's go ahead and send a GET request. So Linda, she's accessing Management API. And you can see the password is password123. Now, let me go ahead and send this request. And you can see that we have a 200 status code. So this is fine. So if you are using Postman like me, go ahead and click on this icon, which is the Postman Interceptor. So I'm going to click on it and then simply enable. And basically this allows us to use browser cookies and use all headers inside of Postman. So let me go ahead and install. And I'm going to add it to Chrome. There we go. Now, if I go back, I think it should have installed. There we go. So this is now installed. So if I send the request again and then go to cookies, you can see that now we have some cookies. So let me actually remove it. So send. Oops, I think what we need to do is actually let me clear everything. So let me clear those requests and this one as well. So I just want you to see exactly what I'm doing. So let me clear everything. So don't save, and this will be localhost and then management. And if I send, you can see that we have 0 cookies, right? But as soon as we enable this interceptor, and now let's go ahead and send the same request, now we have some cookies. And I'm going to grab the actual token right here. So this is the token. So I want to press Command C. And then now let's go ahead and send a post request. So post, and then in the actual body. So right here. So let me scroll up. So in the actual body right here, go ahead and simply say raw. And then this will be JSON. And right here, student and then name, and Alex and then Gomez. And now go ahead and navigate to headers and go ahead and add the following. So X, well, actually all caps, so X and then dash XSRF dash and then token. So this is the actual header that Spring Security is expecting. So actually, let me go ahead and just send this request as is. So if I send the request, you can see that we get forbidden. Now, if I add the header and then paste the actual token, so this was the token, and now if I send, you can see that we have a 200, and this is cross-site request forgery with Spring Security. So obviously we are passing the actual token right here within Postman, but this, for example, if you are using React or Angular, you need to implement the logic to get the actual token from the header, as we did right here. So remember, if I send the get request and then cookies, you can see that you can grab the header. So csrf token, and then when you perform the actual post request, you simply pass it, and then you pass the actual token. Next, let's go ahead and learn how this token is actually generated within Spring Security. Alright, let's go ahead and learn how these tokens are generated. So let's go back to IntelliJ, and right here, let me actually revert the cross-site request forgery.disable. And now what I'm going to do is actually remove that, and we're going to configure it. So with cross-site request forgery, there is a method called csrf token repository. So go ahead and select it, and then inside I'm going to say cookies csrf token repository with http only false. And then right here I'm going to say dot and then and. So right here, this is simply configuring how we are so right here, this is simply setting up the actual repository, so how the tokens are generated. So by default, Spring Security is doing that for us, but we can add some extra settings. So right here, you can see that we are passing with http only false. So what this line right here means, it means that the cookie will be inaccessible to client-side scripts. So if the client tries to access the cookies with some JavaScript, then it won't be able to do so. Now, if I go back, let me just go back and let me collapse this. So go ahead and click on cookies CRF token repository, and I just want you to see the actual implementation. So right here, simply scroll down and you can see that this is the actual header. So this is what we have defined right here. So this is the actual header, remember? So right here, if I scroll down, you can see that you have a save token, right? Which generates a brand new token and then creates a cookie, sets the security, and then, sets the path. And you can see that it's setting like the max age, and right here it simply adds a cookie to the actual response, right? So this is this bit right here. So we are getting the actual cookie right here because of this implementation. The same with load token. It loads the cookie if there is any, and you've got some other methods right here. So basically, go ahead and read this class to get a full understanding of how this works. And finally, another class that I want to show you is this one. So go ahead and press Command N and then search for csrf and then filter. So this one from Spring Framework Security, so the very first one. So go ahead and click on it. And basically right here, so this class right here, it's a filter that runs. So if I scroll up, it runs once per request. So basically you can see that there is this filter called do filter internally. And right here, you can see that the implementation is very simple. So it sets some attributes, then it tries to grab the token, right? So this is grabbing the token. And then if it's missing, it generates a brand new token and then saves it to the repository. And then right here, it checks whether we need to actually check the token based on the request, i.e. if the request is a post, put, or delete. If so, then we actually try to get the actual token right here. and then we compare the tokens, right? And then right here you can see that if the token is missing, we get access denied. And also if the tokens are not the same, you can see that we have invalid token found. And this is all for this video. So if you have any questions, go ahead and drop me a message. Otherwise, let's move on. All right, by now you should know how the cross-site request filter works, right? And also how the token repository is implemented. So I think that now you have a clear understanding of what is cross-site request forgery, and also you should know when to use it, right? So let me actually remind you. So the recommendation is to use this protection for any request that could be processed by a browser by normal users. If you are only creating a service that is used by non-browsers clients, then you likely want to disable it. And that's what I'm going to do, because I'm using Postman and this is not relevant to me. But obviously if I'm submitting forms from any client to my server, I will definitely use this, and you now know how to use it. But throughout this course I'm going to be using Postman, and because I don't want to generate this token, or actually pass the token inside of my headers all the time, because this changes, I'm going to simply disable it, right? So I'm going to comment this and that as well, and then cross-site request, or actually dot, and then cross-site request forgery dot, and then disable. So as I said, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop me a message and I'll be more than happy to assist. This is all for now. Make sure to subscribe to my channel to get more videos like this. Also, if you are interested in Spring Boot security, go ahead and check my website for the full course. This is all for now, and I'll catch you on the next one.